Welcome to Coffee with Joy. I'm so excited to have you all here. As today we're talking to my guest, Malachi, as we talk about a film director. He's a film director, and how did he get into this film? And today we're going to talk about a special film that he created, which is the Poppaw Queen. And we're going to dive just a little into the video, and it will be like a little snippet towards the end. So, of course, please make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow Coffee with Joy. If you do have any questions, please make sure that you put them below, for I know Malachi would love to answer any question, any clarifying questions throughout the segment. And we'll love for you to join Coffee with Joy. So please make sure that you like, share, follow Coffee with Joy. So after these messages, we're going to talk to my guest, Malachi. Advertise your business on our podcast. Connect with us, the Coffee with Joy Talk Show podcast, and let's grow together. Email us, and welcome back to Coffee with Joy. I will bring my guest Malachi on. Hey, Malachi, how are you?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Good. So before we jump right in, can you tell people a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to go from there?
Yeah, sure. Again, my name is Malachi Robinson. I represent Plain Black Creative, which we are a creative agency. We consult with different musicians and work with artists behind the scenes, artist development, media production. And I guess the other side of our business is solely in the business of creating innovative, thought-provoking film as a way to preserve history, to bring people together, and also tell stories that need to be told. And I think when we started this business and we started this company and the brand, and we started to define who we are and what we want to do as a company, we didn't think that this is where we would be in the world in terms of why stories like this are important for us to tell, and why storytelling itself is just extremely important in all the ways that I mentioned before. So yeah, that's why I'm just excited to be here talking with you, and just get the message out about the films that we're working on.
Awesome. So you are an award-winning film director. Like, how did you get into film? What was your love? What drove you into becoming a film director?
I mean, I got to start with Michael Jackson. As I'm looking at the figurine right here, if you can see it right here on my desk. I also have a playbill from the Michael Jackson Broadway production. I don't know why that was just right there, but technically it just stays on my desk. But it's just funny you mentioned that, just because that is my inspiration. As a kid, as early as like 3-4 years old, my earliest memories are watching Michael Jackson on the stage, or watching his music videos and the short films that he would create. And I was just, I think I was already destined to be a visual person, but that kind of just became stained in my memory as like those first memories of media and production and storytelling and music and visuals and theatrics and performance and all these just incredible ways to express yourself. That is what really kind of started my creative journey. And I just told myself, even at that age, I was just like, I want to do that. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I'm just like, that it was inspiring. And I just wanted to figure out how to be that, whether I was the performer or the singer or the dancer or the behind the scenes person. I just wanted to figure it out. And life takes you in different directions as you get older, of course, and you're kind of influenced to take a more safe route, which is going to school, getting your degree, and then figuring out your career after that, versus taking the artistic route. So that's what I did. And I think creativity and just being an artist, that spirit kind of just found me at a certain point where I switched my major to entertainment management from sport management. And so I started being in the world of music, and I was a part of the Grammy U chapter here in DC. So I got a cool opportunity to go to very interesting music related events and workshops. And we got a chance to see Erykah Badu's sound check that she did way back when. And we just sat there and watched her greatness on stage as she was preparing for her performance and talking with the band and getting things right. And just saying like the inner workings of everything behind the scenes, because at a point in time, I wanted to be an artist manager for musicians. But when I realized that my passion is more so being the creative, person, the creative director or the creative consultant, that's what really pushed me to kind of just move into that career in that space right after graduating and leaving the Grammy Youth program. And I just picked up a camera. I actually started acting too. And then I picked up the camera as well, and I'm like, I kind of like being behind the camera more. And then over time, I started to see this, uh, doors just started opening and opportunities started happening. The more and more I started to just really dig into this creative practice. And um, yeah, I started working on short films, I think in 2013. Then I branched into doing music videos, working with various musicians in the area, which won me my first award for music video. And then fast forward to right before the pandemic, I worked on a feature that I didn't technically write or produce or anything. I was just a director. And
Okay.
yeah, that kind of just gave me the more of a bug to just do more film. And since then, I've done technically 2 or 3 short films under my own umbrella. So written, directed, produced, worked on our first feature documentary last year, which of course we'll talk about. And yeah, just more other stuff to come. And I just felt like that's just been my journey. Started with this one inspiration, and it kind of just led me on this path of finding my voice through, storytelling and filmmaking.
Wow. What a journey. What a journey. It's always great when you're able to go through such a great timeline, knowing that it took you, it's like a child writing, right? Just scribble. And the scribble is great, because you end up, you think you're going to do one thing, then you end up to doing something else, which is great. So, wow, just listen to that path. Now, can you break down what is the difference between a film and a short film? Because in my repertoire, a film is a film. But, because again, if you can break it down, of course, we can do the research. But from a director standpoint, what's the difference between the film and a short film, if such, or are they all just short film?
Well, the one way I'll put it, and usually it's just I hate genres, I hate concepts and all that type of stuff. I hate labeling things and putting, restrictions on different things. I like just to approach film just by being able to create, not worrying about what genre it's in or what's it going to be classified, how is it going to be categorized, all that. I try to just create unapologetically through the vision that I see. But if you want to really break it down, of course, film, probably relates more to feature film, which is like 40 minutes or more. A short film is more of like a short form or a presentation of what you want the full feature to look like, or it can be a complete story within itself. I guess one aspect, it can be a proof of concept, which again, like I mentioned, can kind of show give the audience an idea of what this could look like as a full feature without putting all the bells and whistles in it. So the past couple of films that I've done, at least there's definitely this last one called Pipe Dream, which is more of like a case study on figures back in like the 80s and how to define their struggles with fame and how they poured into, their vices, whether drugs, alcohol. And that was a cool way to show what this full vision could look like. I just gave you a taste of it in like 10, 12 minutes, but it was actually written as a more longer project. But in the spirit of just being a independent filmmaker and doing things on a micro budget, sometimes I made it into a 12-minute short film, of course. But and then that's just, of course, in the hopes of, that of being a thing and expanding into a larger project. But hopefully that answers your question.
Oh, no, it did. I mean, because again, of course, we can Google it, right? But to actually hear from a film director, an actual film director, thank you for gracing us with your presence. To be able to hear what's, of course, the definition is right there, but in between, there's like some, nuance that we would never get to hear if you never have that strong opportunity of talking to a film director. So now on to this film, Poppaw Queen. Now, can you give us a little synopsis of what this film is about? Because this is your love and glory.
Oh,
So if you can walk the people through as the trailer is playing, if you can tell us a little bit about Poppaw Queen as we dive deeper into it.
Good. I'll try to keep it brief because this has been a long journey, but this film is definitely inspired by my 7th-time great-grandmother who was unfortunately trafficked from South America. She was born in the late 1600s, around the 1680s, 1690s roughly, and around the early 1700s, she was taken illegally basically on a pirate ship from South America to London for a few years, and then she eventually came to Maryland in 1715, of course, in colonial Maryland. And that's her story. She was illegally brought to this country as an indentured servant, but for some reason she was never granted her freedom, because servitude was supposed to be for, from what we see as 7 years max, and she wasn't granted that. Her children who were born here heard her story, just her having this voice and this resilience. And a lot of what we learn about her, which her name is Mary Queen, is just her character through court depositions and testimonies. And we really see the full picture of who this woman was and how strong and resilient she was, and how that kind of her voice just transcended through her descendants, so much so that several descendants, Queen descendants, sued their slaveholders to attain their claim to freedom, just based off the fact that she was born a free woman, and therefore they were supposed to also have their own freedom. And a lot of them won their court cases, some in DC court, Maryland court, Virginia court, some went all the way up to the Supreme Court. And there's just a lot of this history we don't hear about in history books. We don't see it. We don't hear this story about the freedom suits, but we also hear a lot about the Underground Railroad, which is just one way to attain your freedom, through taking it into your own hands. But the freedom suits is just another window into history that we don't really hear about, that needs to be preserved, because as we discussed before this call, the times are now that it's more important for us to take initiative and take accountability for our own heritage and story, because tomorrow, literally, if not today, a lot of this access to these resources and knowledge can be gone in terms of libraries, websites, and that's why I feel like this mission that I'm on now, to preserve these type of stories, is extremely important. I think it's not just on me; it's a collective responsibility in our own unique artistic ways of how we can contribute in some way. And I think that's the whole purpose and mission of this film, is to inspire people to connect with their own heritage in whatever way that means, whether traveling to these locations or learning about your ancestors, learning their names, and seeing where that journey takes you, because this is where that journey has taken me in terms of that discovery and what I'm doing with it and how I'm using this to resist. But it's up to everyone else who learns about the film, learns about Mary Queen's story and her descendants, and learn about their own heritage, and kind of just put the pieces together and just create your own building blocks to learning the art of resistance in this world that we all live in.
Now, how did you go about, because it was so much artifacts and information you had to go about, how long did it take you to get all this and really compile this into the film? Let me not say short, into the film, because a lot of research had to go into it, right? A lot of information had to go into finding. And I think that's what the missing piece. I think that now we're in a society where it's such a microwavable or air fryer now, everything can't be put into the air fryer. It has to go oven-wise. You got to do some deep diving into information, because the further you go, the further you find more information as it leads into this warm water, into this hot water, and it leads. And I think that society has kind of ripped that from us. And when I say us, sad to say, younger people, because they think everything you just Google and all your answers are there. And it's not there. You have to be able to deep dive and really find out, to really understand. And that's why now, with society today trying to rip those pages out, like we stated earlier, trying to rip it out, and now we're trying to put them back, trying to add them back, and everyone come up with their own little piece, because now you're saying you're wrong, you're saying you're right, because this is what outside of our ancestors, what people want to, to really confuse us if we don't deep dive and really find the information. So looking into, your great grandmother, trying to find this information, how long did it take you to get this information and put this all together to make it into over our film documentary?
This was a little bit over 2 years that I was doing research, and I say that because it started when I did the ancestry DNA testing. I started with that. A couple months later, got the results and started to just fill out my tree. It happened gradually over the course of 2 years of just building out my tree, starting from my grandparents and going all the way back to the late 1600s, which blew me away because from what we all know about um, enslavement is that a lot of records of these individuals that were enslaved, they're not a lot of great records in terms of everyone's not fortunate to really, trace their ancestry through
Yeah.
court documents and baptismal records, all of the religious records that were kept with a lot of the ancestors that I'm connected to. I was really fortunate for that because I literally saw, all of the Catholic records because my ancestors were essentially enslaved by Jesuit priests.
Mhm.
And these are the same individuals that had multiple plantations around Maryland, and we also see them being the founders of Georgetown University, which is this prestigious almost Ivy League um,
Mhm.
college, and their entire institution is built off of free and forced labor.
Mm.
And that's another theme pulling into the film is you're seeing all this information, but we're going into a place where we want you to figure out the response, which is knowing that institutions like Georgetown and others across the country have this history, this connected collective history, that some of them don't acknowledge, some of them are starting to acknowledge. But like, what do we do with this information, knowing that my ancestors were sold, I think, for nearly, I think, a little bit over $3 million in today's money. That's how much the institution benefited from this sale of individuals back in 1838. So how do we, yeah, how do we answer that?
Yeah.
Because we all don't have the answers, and there's not one right answer to. And it goes into the conversation of reparations in terms of what is owed and what is due, because it's a multi-layered answer.
Yeah.
Prime example of how certain number of my ancestors were connected to this one story of Georgetown's founding and their sale, and how again the money and the compensations that's tied to that, on top of other families across the country, and connected to all these other institutions and just the larger system within itself,
Mhm.
that provides another route of oppression through all the means that we experience, whether through housing or buying a house, getting your house appraised, going to see a doctor, going to get a loan, getting an education, applying for student loans, and don't have this, your grandfather's investment or his income or his businesses that's been in your family for 5 generations can help you to go to college or have, you know, cushion funds when you turn 18. A lot of us didn't grow up with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a reason why, because,
Mhm.
I saw a lot of my ancestors lost their land. A lot of them won land and property with their freedom suits, if not through the will and testaments of their slaveholders. And where's that land today? That's a whole nother way that can be added to what is owed to enslaved individuals or the descendants of enslaved individuals. Um, and yeah, again, it just comes back to the why behind this documentary, which
Mm.
is not only to tell the story, but to open up and inspire other folks to create in a way that preserves history and pushes back on the system and allows people to just have some type of connectivity during this time, because that's what keeps me going in terms of what I do. It's definitely just comes back to just being able to create and express.
Wow. And really just told it, be able to open up and tell the story correctly,
Yeah,
really just deep dive and really find that information and really share, because somebody got to continue the torch, right? Somebody
absolutely.
got to continue the legacy, because at the end of the day, some people just give up, or they allow the world to dilute and
Yeah,
say, oh, that's not it. That's not where it's supposed to be, or have them going in circles without really trying to find the information, knowing that it's, it goes back deeper. It goes very deeper.
it does.
Now, where do you see yourself, putting this further, like onto the bigger mainstream, this documentary going further? Like, where do you see this Poppaw Queen going further, like in the next, I would say, next 2 years, next 5 years?
Oh wow. I haven't said this to anyone like publicly yet. So it's kind of like weird saying it out loud. Besides, like the individuals I work with, my whole team, we've been talking about this since we started this project because we saw where this was going to go before the film even happened, which is so exciting because it kind of creates this just journey before us. And I think that's how I usually operate when it comes to creating is like I see it first and then it kind of like just fill in the blanks from there. All we need to do is X, Y, and Z is so that we can get to, these milestones along the way. Excuse me. So the film is one project, of course, that includes, really great conversation and interviews, thought-provoking interviews from a lot of folks that are connected to this story. We also have poetry, which is really unique in a way that we were able to connect the 4 chapters of this documentary through poetry and spoken word performance. And so seeing the poetry come to life behind the scenes and then performing it and then editing and just hearing it over and over again, I'm like, we got to do something with this. Like, this is good to just be just a documentary, because there's so much more that can come out of this in terms of interacting and making things engaging for the audience. Because I don't know, that's just how I think.
Yeah.
So, talking with the poets, I'm like, we talked about a lot of projects, all of which I'm not going to name, but I will say that a few years back, I did an interactive exhibit at Deep Hunt Underground, which turned a short film of mine into a whole interactive exhibit. So if you've been to Deep Hunt Underground in Washington, D.C., it's a really dope spot. It's pretty much like an abandoned train station underground. And so pretty much the length of this train station is like an art exhibit or art gallery. And so I turned the whole thing into visuals and had projections all on the wall and kind of just told the story related to the film. And so the cool thing is that what we're going to do in October is we're going to do that again and create a interactive exhibit for the Poppaw Queen, which will basically tell the story of Mary Queen through movement, through projections on the walls, and you'll see the poetry from the film, some of the performances, you'll see a lot of the text on the wall, and it pretty much just tells you the story from start to finish of Mary Queen's life, and little, pieces in between to kind of just weave a whole narrative together in terms of all the themes behind the film, of course. And at the end of the exhibit, you'll have kind of like a screening area where we'll pretty much take out all the poetry of the documentary, and we'll have like a nice little presentation and some new footage, of course. And the film will technically evolve into something else, which I'll let that be what it is once it's out there. But so that I'm excited about that because that's what we're building up to this October. So more information will be coming out about that soon, in terms of RSVPing and ticket sales and all that good stuff. And more information will be out soon. And then there's another project lined up after that. I'll keep that one a secret because
as you should.
We're really excited about that because again, it's definitely one of those concepts and ideas that we saw before we even started shooting. Once we sat down with the structure of the documentary, and I'm like, well, we can do this. We can. And it's all in the effort to allow the message of the film and Mary Queen's voice just get to many people as possible in the most accessible way, and definitely a creative and artistic way. I think that's a really cool way of telling stories now, is that we can do what we can. Again, just going back to preserving history. I can't stress how important that is right now. It was important throughout the entire process of making this film, but today holds even much more weight, just because we are literally seeing that in real time of how it's labeled, restoring American history and not actually respecting, our American history. Because the story of my family, Mary Queen, all of my ancestors that were connected to at least this one part of American history is exactly that, American history.
All right.
You don't want to mess with that. And we can only do the best we can to protect our minds, protect our peace, and not try to dig too much into it, just because that's not the healthiest thing for us to do right now.
Yeah, for facts,
We've been through worse, but we can brave the storm and get through it and come out in a hopeful way of just thriving in some way or another, regardless.
Oh yeah, facts. Because the history has to be told, you know, from the mouths of people who actually went through it or the descendants of those who've gone through it, you know, and it's a shame how people are trying to rip the pages out. But,
Yes.
you know, just got to keep the flame lit without someone trying to take it apart and trying to restart or try to conjugate a whole another narrative that's not there. So I think this is truly good. I mean, Poppaw Queen is definitely going to come alive, and I see to be in bigger films, you know. But if you need an actress, I'm not saying, but I'm saying, you know, how can a sister get down, you know?
Well, we may have some casting calls coming out soon.
Please let me know, because I would love to see if I could put my hat in the category. Because I always think that I could play, you know, what's her name? Florida Evans. Oh, for good time.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So like we get a good actress. And I believe that, you know, but God, you hear me? Walk, annoy my fits into that direction. I guess that's why he brought Malachi. But yeah. Yes, I would love to. So because I just rich history is very important. It's very important to keep it alive, you know, just to keep it in the forefront, you know, and there's so many angles of it, right?
Indeed.
And I think just having Poppaw Queen and you being so close to it, you know, really deep diving and really bringing it out is like such a great documentary. And I thank you for allowing me, for you to be on my show, to, you know, just to express and really declare, just to show the findings. So as we bring the show to a close, Malachi, what, because it's such a great show, we didn't even do a commercial. That's how it's about.
Oh, wow.
Yes, the information was so rich, you know. And of course, we'll have the trailer here. So when people, of course, they see the trailer, we'll have it towards the end so that people can just get a snippet. And, you know, please reach out to Malachi. But what keeps Malachi going? You know, you have a family, you know, always, I know your nuance, just keep going, always come up with new ideas on how to move or how to stay innovative. So what keeps Malachi going? Through prayer, scripture, affirmation, what keeps Malachi going?
All the above.
Yeah.
Definitely starting with definitely pouring into the little Malachi, you know, the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old version of myself, and doing what I can to make that little person happy, because a lot of times I lose sight of that, and then I come back to it, and then it kind of gives me like that extra gas in my tank just to keep, you know, going along. So reminding myself of that as much as possible in terms of what I do as a filmmaker, as a director, as a writer, as a dad, as a husband, all the things that I'm connected to, whether professionally or personally, is just trying to just keep sight on that, you know, making that little person proud. And also listen to the ancestors too.
Yeah.
That's been a great part of this journey as well, because it was through them that's where the story, or at least the inspiration to do the film, that's where that really came from. A time I was just sitting still. I was a little frustrated that previous project that I was working on at that time wasn't working out, because I was hitting like a creative block, and boom, I sat still for a little bit, tried to figure things out, sort things out. Why is this friction happening? And then I just saw the whole concept for the documentary. I wrote it down as quickly as I saw it. And then that was literally the structure of how we filled in the blanks of all the people that we needed to be in the film, and building out the poetry scenes. And now here we are, award-winning film, you know, have, I think, a little bit over 10 screenings over the past year, with a lot of great participation, feedback, and each one is like a huge family reunion of just Queen descendants and all the connected families coming back and watching the film and connecting and talking. It's just a family reunion. I think next time we do one, we're probably going to do the boots on the ground dance at the end of it, just to kind of build that spirit or something. I think
Yeah.
that's a cool idea. But yeah, that's what keeps me going, is being connected to the little version of myself. Um, Definitely doing this for my kids. That's important too, because building
Yeah.
legacy, building generational wealth, and all that good
Yeah.
stuff. That's always a priority. And then yeah, definitely have an opportunity to have some chats with my ancestors is pretty cool, because that kind of gives me all the affirmation and intention that I need to keep going.
Amen. Amen. Yes, yes, yes. So again, thank you so much, Malachi, for sharing part of Queen Poppaw with us, Poppaw Queen with us on
Yes.
Coffee with Joy. It is so exciting. So please make sure you all go check it out. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow Coffee with Joy. And please, if there's any question that you all like to have further, I know our award-winning film director, Malachi, will surely reach out to you all or answer any questions that's there. For this is this documentary is such a great time to have right now, just to understand what is taking place, that we can't lose our history. We can't allow someone to rip those pages away. So we thank God for Malachi, who's able to have the research and the information just to dig deeper into information into the ancestors, and knowing that our history is still rich and alive. So again, please make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow Coffee with Joy. If you would like to be a guest on Coffee with Joy, please make sure that you go to our website, which is thecoffeewithjoyshow.com, or you could DM us or email us and we'll surely get back with you. And if you would like to patronize our company, please make sure that you follow the QR codes located on the screen. For any amount will do, of course, always will help move our production. And as always, if it's a weekend or a weekday, it is Coffee with Joy today. You all live life on purpose, and see you all soon. Have a blessed night.